Dylan and JB, how are y'all?
Great. How are you?
You got to start by answering the question that everybody wants to know, which is how long have y'all been together and how did y'all first meet?
So to answer your first question, 200 years. Okay.
Yes.
No, it's been going on 9 years, almost 10. We met in an acting class, which was such a beautiful thing back in Atlanta before we moved to LA. And it was it was a class that I was teaching, matter of fact, and he came in as a guest and displayed probably, I think, one of the most transparent moments that I'd ever seen out of the students that I had in class at that time. He became very vulnerable. So I thought it was quite impressive, not moving into anything else about that and stuff. So class ended, whatever kids would be, and we all said bye and things like that. So, I went on with my day. Wasn't, day, and a few weeks later, I'm walking in the local Walmart, and in Atlanta at that time. And then all of a sudden I was in the dairy area. Date was the bakery area that shouldn't be in anyway. Area. But so I look and he comes walking across the store. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I didn't remember his name exactly at that particular point in time. Yeah. And so I approached him and just said, "Hey, how you doing? You remember me? You were in my acting class." And he started smiling and everything. He said, "Oh yeah," and what a great time that he had. And I was looking forward to coming back because you were in a production. He was in
of Anything Goes,
right at that time. So a musical that he was doing. So, and he said he would come back, after the musical was completed. Well, anyway, as time would have it, so we stood there, and then next thing you know, it was 2.5 hours later.
Wow.
Yes, on his job. Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. I come in from somewhere, and I'm, and it's so funny. You touched on the situation within the acting class. And I'm going to just add, elaborate. It just, to be honest with you, at that time period, we were both living in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And I'd been in Atlanta, living there all by myself for 3 years, trying to get some things in order and get some things done. But psychologically, I just wasn't feeling it and feeling myself in that time period. So a good friend of his class invited me to a class. Now, I haven't been doing the acting bit for a long period at that moment. I had got my diploma at Alabama State, got it from theater liberal arts, got my bachelor's in liberal arts. So I really wasn't doing too much work, but she invited me. And in that time period, I kept even asking, should I even go? Mm-hmm. Thank God I did go, because what I learned was an exercise where I had to strip of whatever that was going on of myself to take in of the art. There was an exercise where we had to get in front of the whole entire class and, kind of strip of what was going on. Be vulnerable, mm-hmm. Yes. So that was a moment, mm-hmm. But not even thinking in the back of my mind that this nice teacher was going to be a good, long-lasting friend that I was going to, end up being with. Not only, let's just say this, not only as a friend, but as a lover, because that's not where my mind was at. Mm-hmm. I would say this: when we met at Walmart, I remember his face. Mm-hmm. I remembered his face. I'm not a good names don't stick to me, but faces do. Mm-hmm. I always tell people, when you see somebody that is nice and that is kind and who has treated you with some form of respect and love, it stays with you. Mm-hmm. Even though you might not know the person by name, you might know them by face. Mm-hmm. I knew him by face. Mm-hmm. And when we talked, it kind of threw me a little bit because I did not know if he would have remembered me. It was like, how many weeks? It was 2 weeks after.
2 or 3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks after the class. And I was just walking into work one night. There he was standing by the bakery. And I was like, oh. I was like, how you doing?
So it sounds like a lot of the connection that y'all had was based on friendship, and there was also an intellectual connection.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. You touched on Sampson one point about friendship, and I think that's another point. I think nowadays people don't work on becoming friends, or have conversations around being friends. What do you want in a friend? What is your expectations in a friend? And you're hearing that from both parts, because I think if you have that conversation, you can assess how this person will be in your life. Now people will tell you up front that they're going to be selfish.
Oh yeah.
As the old saying says, if when people tell you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that people are telling people who they are, but they don't want to believe them for other reasons.
Well, real quick, JB, give us an example of that. Like, how could someone be telling you and maybe you don't recognize it? So how would you suggest somebody recognize being able to hear or recognize that?
I think number one, emoting all the time about themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
In that speaking about past relationships in not a very positive way, or finding a great essence in that. Not talking about what they brought to or what they did or did not bring to that relationship, and the mistakes that they made in that relationship. Because I think one thing as becoming a friend, you need to work on being transparent. And if you're not transparent from the beginning, there's going to be highly unlikely that you become transparent, later on throughout the course of the relationship, So I think transparency in conversation leads into good friendships. And then the one question, you probably got a point there. And then the other point is, I think that a good girlfriend of mine said to me some time ago, when she was on the dating market or whatever the case would be, she would ask future, candidates that if something happens to me, are you willing to push me around in a wheelchair the rest of my life? And that always stuck to me, because you don't know what situations that are going to happen to a person's life, So are you going to type of person that something happens that you're going to fly because it's happened to them? So if a person backpedals from that type of conversation or that answer, then you might want to do some shopping around again.
Yeah, it can be a very sex-driven community, and so a lot of us go into relationships seeking that high of intense sexual connections, which can look a lot different from friendship. So starting your relationship with friendship, or for anybody starting a relationship with friendship, how do you also balance that with creating a good sex life together?
I would say great communication. It's not always, sex is not always based on the physical. It's always based on the communication skills. For one, and I'm going to be transparent, I was afraid of sex for a long time. In the beginning of me finding who I was and what I represented as a gay Black man in this community, I noticed on most online sites, hookup sites, it was an awful ordeal with me. It kind of brought up some PSTD with me, because there were situations where I was, when you're trying to get out there and find your way, you fall into those what they call it, those one night stands. But they are awesome. There could be good and there could be some bad ones. And I was falling into a lot of bad ones. And that kind of messed with my psyche when it came down to
real quick. What was so bad about the bad ones?
Let's just say this: when you don't know, you learn. I did not. There were some things I was learning when it boiled down to receiving as well as giving. And then on top of that, you think about the drug aspect of it. Sometimes when you're not in full control of what you are doing, sometimes you just say this: when you don't know yourself, you fall for any trap that comes down to what you're trying to get into. So there was some drug element in the situation. That wasn't a good thing to fall into. But I had to learn. I had to understand that this right here wasn't good for me. And then there was some abuse in the midst of it. But like I was, going back to what I was saying, it's all about communication. And in that time, I did not have that type of know-it-all. That's why when we first met and we had a conversation based on it, I realized that I could trust him. It made things so easier for me to relax and to give in, and to also to be I don't want to say subordinate. That sounds very like an enslavement type of situation. But but submissive, yeah. And it's fun. It's fun when your partner knows okay, he doesn't like that, then let's do it this way. So I can make him comfortable with me touching his body, caressing his body, massaging his body, and then we can go into foreplay, and then we can go into to what it is, the meat and potatoes. If that makes
the stuff that grown people do.
But yeah,
so yeah, I mean, I have to agree with him. You know, being like, as I said, started our conversation, being he's the older guy, you know, in the room. So
I can't.
You know, you know, I, and to be honest, I think that based on who I was, I never, out of the course of my life, I've never been an overly sexual person anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, so I was not running and hiding, hoping to get into, you know, whatever the case may be, because I never liked the idea of being in one night. Yes, I've had one night stands, but I never liked that feeling. I never liked the fact of waking up and something else was gone, disappeared, or whatever the case may be, because I've always been the emotional person that got attached to someone. And I feel that for whatever level you get into with a person, there is an emotional attachment, you know, and I did not want to keep sacrificing my emotional, attaching my emotions to people that didn't want that type of situation. So I kind of put myself in a little bubble for a long period of time, you know, and was comfortable with that bubble, you know, because I did not want to put myself on display, you know, in that manner. So it wasn't, you could say that I probably lived a good portion of my life, as one would say, unexperienced, you know, in a good way. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Because all experiences are not great experiences, you know, and all experiences are not one that we should venture off into. And that's a whole other subject, you know, you know, but what within that, you know, so that allowed us to be able to understand one another, and the simplicity, and not have these huge expectations. We have found, I think, a balance, you know, and we still work on our balance.
Yes, we do.
You know, we still work. It's not like, okay, it's like all over, you know, I mean, just, as you say, the greatest thing is since sliced bread, but that's a relationship. You know what I'm saying? It is going to change. It is going through different phases, you know, but if you maintain the love and the commitment to that love, no matter what you go through on the backside of that, it will sustain all of those things, you know. But if you go into it with the sexual expectations of everything, it's over. You know what I'm saying? It literally is over. Now, I'm not sure some couples will debate that, you know what I mean, at the end of the day, but very few, you know, because that, to me, in my opinion, is that, you know, coming from in a single perspective, because in the community, they set so much expectation on how a person is going to perform. You know? And when a person doesn't perform necessarily that way, or it doesn't remind them of something that they had in the past, then they figure it's over. It's never going to be that way, you know. And it becomes down to a me, my, and not how can I extend myself to be there for that person.
So it sounds like y'all had a great opportunity to explore vulnerability through physical intimacy.
Yes. And then, you know, your ins and outs, you know, you like he said, the do's and don'ts, but they're not really do's and don'ts. They're just understandings. You know what I mean? And then I think under the understandings, you evolve to another place. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, and that, to me, that's so important. Evolving to another place, because that defines the relationship. You know, even further. We had I'm gonna just pick a quick paper clip. We had a guest on our show, on the Truth Behind the Truth, that this couple spoke about things that men. He said men really don't have orgasms. They ejaculate, but they don't have orgasms. And I was like, wow, so they piqued the curiosity. And if I could put this clip in, if you don't mind, you can go back to our show on our YouTube page, The Truth Behind the Truth, and look for Dr. Elsbeth and her husband Freddie. And the Freddie section is where you can hear what we're exactly talking about the opportunity of understanding male intimacy, basically. So he goes in and gives a clear example, and he really breaks it down. He said, because men are taught basically two things, you know, and it's two things, which I'll be discreet on one of them. He said one is to fight and one is to, okay, that's where our energy comes from. But the idea of that is you got to change that energy. Okay, you got to understand what happens between the fight and between the other F. Okay, and you find your male energy between the two. So we go from fight to F, you know, and not understanding that. So this is why we're so in the moment. You know, we're ready to get it, because we get it. That's what fight. And then at the end of the day, that's where the F comes in. You know, at the end of the day, so I've completed it as long as I've F'd it.
And that goes back to the fear, the fear that the trauma that I experienced in the beginning was the let's get it. instead of having the conversation before that then. Because let's just be honest, when you go see somebody for a hookup, you're not having a conversation. You don't even know what the person's name is or their face. You go into a dark room, you get it on, and then you're pushed out. Right. And that is a situation that to me, now I don't know about for anybody else, because everybody, I don't know what makes your boat rock or what makes you rock, what rocks your boat. But I can tell you, for me, that threw me, because I realized in that moment, damn, is that what it is? Is this what it's supposed to be? I mean, there's more, there has to be more to this than just me getting going pound town on my but it's just the fact that it's more, it has to be more to that. So I think that's what it is. It's based, like you said, it's based on communication. And I think that's how we balance it out within our own lives. It has to be about the conversation. And then, and we play with it too.
And I think just to wrap this part up, I think that, I can encourage, your listeners and everything, is that spend more time with you. You know what I'm saying? And especially if you're a single person, at the end of the day, understand your body better. At the end of the day. And then when you get with someone, whoever that desire may be for you in that aspect, spend time with that particular individual. Watch their movements, watch their subtleties, and begin to make love to those subtleties. Okay. And not for the meat and potatoes. You know what I mean? At the end of the day.
Now let's elaborate on that right quick. When you say make love to their subtleties, give us an example.
So just along with touch, at the end of the day, what arouses them at the moment of touch, at the end of the day, and focusing on that area of touch. You see what I'm saying? And then spend more time on that area of touch, because you could put them or bring them to a level of complete intimacy without having that full meat and potatoes. You see what I mean? At the end of the day, you could have them at that point of the true orgasm or whatever, before that even happens. You may not even have to go there. At the end of the day, because the opportunity is it's been so breathtaking and so overwhelming that it takes place. It removes that thrust to go to the other part, And I think that from males, typically, and I'm gonna say males in general, let's generalize it in this point, that we've been so programmed that end result is where we thought that we've had a great experience, and it's.
I think, for example, from us, you like to compliment me a lot, because he likes to compliment, and I get very, very mushy. Don't get me wrong; it's just that's something I've never been used to. When somebody compliments, when we compliment each other a lot, but when he compliments me, it's like, yeah, you look cute when you say that. It's like, huh? Oh, okay.
And you mean when you look cute when you say something in an intimate setting?
Well, no, not just having to just say what, just in a regular conversation.
See, when you have a special love for someone, at the end of the day, it's a nuance. You start seeing things where they don't see. And then about their movements, about what they are, and how beautiful you see them. At the end of the day, and he could literally just be sitting on the couch doing something, maybe on his phone or whatever, looking at TV, and he'll have a certain look. And I'll just tell him, how cute he is in that moment. I love his eyes. I always tell him how he has such beautiful eyes, and all those are the type of things. So when I'm getting emotional, sorry. When you take the opportunity really to find out the special someone, and not all the things that people or in this community represent, and what we think that has to be. This is why we don't have lasting relationships. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not taking the time to tell one another how beautiful they are. And then at that point, that means their soul is illuminating before you at that moment. But if you're so caught up of what you want to do between their legs, and all of those are the type of things, you miss those solid moments that could give you the most beautiful relationship that you have in your life. So that goes into the point of what I consider foreplay. Foreplay is not the fondling of genitals. That's not what foreplay is. Foreplay is the moment of you just reaching over, holding their hand. You know what I'm saying? Or what I've just mentioned about that, or even just touching their arm or caressing them, or kissing them on a different part of their body. At the end of the day, and not expecting the gusto or the meat and potatoes to follow behind that. You know what I mean? And I think that men miss that. And whether it's in a same gender relationship or in relationships with they are with their females, women crave for those opportunities. Okay, they crave for a man to really just look for the spontaneity of what they're doing in the moment. So if that's something that they embrace, in that, and we embrace the same thing, there's no difference when it comes to wanting that in a relationship. But if your focus is sex, then you'll miss out on the greatest part of that relationship.
Yeah.
Y'all are speaking for most of this conversation specifically around the importance of intimacy. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I think a lot of Black men aren't comfortable with. So how would you encourage more Black men to really become comfortable with being vulnerable in that space of intimacy with their partner and each other in general?
Let's just say this: stop perpetuating what you saw your grandfather do, or what your father have done, or what your uncle had told you to do. Mm-hmm. I can say this. I think, and this is where we relate. So I think because of the fact that we are so of the arts, and we're so of the written word, that's where we get our synergy from. I think it's just the imagination of what love could be and what it could look like to us, instead of what we have seen all our lives. I didn't have a father in the home, and I'm going to put that out there. I was raised by my mother and my grandmother. So I didn't see men around. But in most situations, when my mom would talk about sex, I'm sorry, Mom, I won't put it out there. She would tell us, most Black people do not know how to make love. Right. And that threw me. It threw me. And I said, why? It's just, that's not in our nature. And I went a professor on campus told us randomly in a history class that Black men don't have orgasms. It's feminine to have, for a man to have orgasms. I thought that was kind of horrible. I thought that was very odd, even though that didn't sink in at that time. But I would often go back and think about that, because when I would be in situations where I would have some form of an orgasm, I thought, oh shit, am I acting too feminine? Or is it too girly? Or I'm too weak? That played with my mind. I think we have to get away from what has been taught to us through whatever means of religion or culture, whatever that you thought was right. We have to get away and get our critical thinking skills together. And I think that's the problem. You have to get away from that mindset of, this is what a man should say, this is what a man should do. When you are in love with somebody, that's where it should change. The softness should come into play. I should be able to tell you or to show you how I'm feeling without having to put up a mask. And that is the problem. We need to take off the mask as gay men, or as whatever you represent, and just say, this is who I am. Take me as I am.
Yeah. So one thing that has been brought up a few times in this conversation also has been an age difference. Let's talk about that. Very briefly, what is the age gap between you two? How have you navigated that together? And why is there a sort of a stigma around age gaps, especially in Black gay relationships?
I have to admit, and he knows this, that when we first got together, it was a concern. I don't know if it was a concern for me, or was I concerned about what everybody else would think about it. And I think that's something that comes up whether you're in an age gap relationship or you're in an interracial relationship or whatever, because we always tend to think what society first, and then what family and everybody else involved are going to say. So I have to admit, I made a couple phone calls, and and I said, I met this fabulous man. He's like the greatest. He's this, all of these. I gave all of the list of accolades or whatever, and then first person I said, how old is it? So I said, well, okay. Oh, and then they said, well, okay, so he's younger than you, huh? Okay. So I said, yes, he is. And then so they gave their little opinions, whatever they did. But here's the thing, one of my best dearest girlfriends, and she said, and she's one of my best girlfriends from seeing me some different phases throughout my life, and she's a very spiritual person, and she always calls me brother JB. Okay, she said, brother JB, let me tell you like this. She said, the universe always lines up specifically for who we need, what we need, and the time we need it. Okay, and this is the time for him to be in your universe. Okay, and from where I'm hearing the way that you're speaking of him and the light that I can hear in your voice, this is your match. He said, F what everybody else says about the relationship. You go for it and you find out what is making you happy in the course of that. So, and then I was like, okay. So then I also then I submerged myself into our relationship. So in submerging ourselves into a relationship, it's like the age doesn't exist. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't exist. When we're in our home, when we're in together, our energy is about each other's energy. Okay, so the age factor doesn't exist. Now it may exist in some people that look at us, but in our world, it doesn't exist. We're right here to each other. So we mirror each other. We mirror each other in all of the things that I think that people would find an age difference is. And the other part about it is that I didn't realize how much he was my age in the sense of that, because of his knowledge and the powerful person that he is in the realm of his knowledge and his historical position and the things that he loves and all. And I was like, well, why happened? Hey, I've been going out with guys that same age and older, didn't know half the shit that he knew, And I'm like, okay, no, this is good. You know what I'm saying? This is really good. And to find somebody in his age category that was like that. So yeah, that's it. Anything in a nutshell. But
I think you said a mouthful.
Okay.
But to be honest, which I just like you, I always felt growing up, I was the odd one. I think when it boiled down to it, we were always looking for acceptance. Mm-hmm. But to be honest with you, we always found ourselves in the midst of the elder, mm-hmm, of our elders. Mm-hmm. I, for one, was always interested in conversation with what the grown-ups were saying. So that kept me away from getting around people my age. And when I was around people my age, I had to dumb myself down all the time. Mm-hmm. And I felt some type of way about that. And I felt something was wrong with me because I just was never in the know of what was going on, unless it was something political, something artsy, historical. I loved having those conversations. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, when I went out doing my thing in college, it was a hard thing to grapple with because everybody on campus wasn't me. Even when we would have, these types of conversations about life, I felt sometimes that I couldn't relate. And I felt like I was the one that was like, oh God, I got to find somebody to talk to. So I would find myself sometimes with people that was a little older than me, men included. I would have conversations and nice conversations. We would go out on dates. In this particular situation, I was through. Cal Tippers was the place in Atlanta that we had our first date, and it's not there no more. But if you're a native of Atlanta, you know Cal Tippers. But he had asked me on a date, and I was so like, I'm not wanting to go. A good friend of mine, she has passed on, and to be honest with you, she was like, go on a date. Go on a date. I said, no, I don't want to go on a date. She said, go on the date. What do you have to lose? If you don't like it, just tell them, listen, it's a done deal. If you do like it, stay with it. So we went out, me and her got an outfit from Macy's. I remember what the outfit was. It was white pants and a denim blue, very tight shirt, because I wanted to look sexy, and I was in my little slim days in those days. And I went in, and I was a little late, but you were standing there waiting at the counter, and he was smiling, usual smile, and I was like, oh, I was still like, okay. I'm not getting the where the hell you were and why you so late. I got an embrace. And that really, I let go of my guard in that moment. And when we were in that restaurant, we had a conversation, we talked. And then I think what really sealed the deal was he came over on the side of my table. Now, this is weird. I never had a date like this. Always been opposite table having a conversation. He got up, literally came to the side, sat beside me, and we had our date that way. That was odd to me. I don't know, it was odd, but it was just fascinating for somebody to want to be in my space like that and be comfortable. Because I've been in situations where nobody really wanted to be in my space like that. So that was a first. That was really a first. And I think we kissed that night, we embraced that night after the dinner. Because we went out there and it was cold that night. It was really cold. And we went out there, and before I could get in my car, we embraced each other, but you gave me that kiss. And that was like, oh, but I was like, oh. I said, okay. I can deal with this.
So as you can see, age didn't make a difference,
It didn't make a difference. It didn't make a difference. Really did. But I want to put this in there and close this out. I always knew, I don't know, probably this was the energy around me, but I always knew I would be with somebody a little older than me, because the pathway I was taking in my life didn't always have me around youth. It always had me around somebody who was had a little bit more wisdom and a little bit more knowledge than me. And I loved that atmosphere. And I kept saying, even in the midst of me learning and whatever life was taking me, I kept saying, oh my goodness, what is going on with me? Why can't I find somebody my age? You know, dang, this dating thing is hard. Why is that? What is wrong with me? The conversations I would have in my mind, but it wasn't anything wrong with me. It's just those people weren't right for me. And I think it just pushed us. It pushed me towards him because we had so much in common. Right. We love theater. We love music. We love Broadway, which was corny for me. I'm like, black men loving Broadway? But I was always the one who loved Broadway in my little, you know, in my small town in Alabama. Nobody knew anything about Broadway. But when we had conversations, he knew. And we connected. And it was like, wow, I finally found not only a friend, but a partner in life.